Hello, everybody. My name is Neil, artist, actor, and musician here in Orlando, Florida. Just making a quick video about this HDA that I created based off of um, a video I found on YouTube on three-point lighting in Houdini. Um, and I wanted to take it a step further and make it completely dynamic and make it, completely cut. Well, and customizable as as far as saving to a file and being able to pull from that file and create a menu from that file. So I'll go through the tool, I'll go through the HDA, what it does, and then we'll go through the code and let you see what's under the hood. So this is the three-point light tool. It's um, three-point lighting that's typically used in like photography and cinema and film and so I thought it was pretty interesting to create something like this and for my still scenes. And so what you do is you select a preset file, right? You select the file. When you first create the tool, it'll ask you if you want to select a file or create a new preset file. And if you create a new preset file, then you'll only have this default setting here. You won't have anything else. Everything else I manually added in when I was first creating the tool, and then I was able to test out and put in my own color configurations. Um, so you'll get to save a new file, which will just have this single default in it. You'll be able to open this file location of where this preset file, and as you can see, I've done some testing with this. Um, be careful you don't um, delete this preset file because then it'll be like, yeah. Hmm. Um, what I am going to put in later is the ability to copy presets from one file to another. Um, and that's all it'll do is just copy all your presets. That way you can, back up or put like a backup button, backup presets and like that. So, so here you have the save new and open file location, and the first thing you do when the tool when this is instance of the HDA is created, it'll ask you where your preset file is, or do you want to create a new one? In this case, I already have a preset file, so I just chose that. Now this is where you select your presets, and you can see it changes the lights. And I have full lighting turned on. I could easily turn that off, and and um, no disable lights in the scene and stuff like that. Um, and you can see the color of the lights in the scene change. But I like to have these lights on so it lets me see the basic colors that are in the viewport. Um, and as you can see, all these settings are in here. In order for the volume samples, of course, to take effect in your rendering, volume samples have to be turned on. But you have all your basic stuff for the Redshift light, and this was built primarily really for Redshift. You can turn it around and build it for like Karma rendering or Mantra, whichever you use, or whatever renderer you use, as long as you know where all this information lives. Now, on the regular Houdini lights, there I don't find temperature in on the settings, so I'm not exactly sure where they would live. But in Redshift, you can do color or temperature or both color and temperature. I didn't put in the drop downs for this in here. I just turned on color and temperature, so you would have so the user could have many options to add like a cooler or warm tint depending on your setting. Um, so let's say, and you can update your settings. You can give it a new name through this update. So let's say I wanted to take this red and apply a different red color to it. Then I would change the color, and if I wanted to, and if I wanted to change the name, I could put in a name here like red modified and put update. You know, or I could make a separate red, red whatever, and it would and it would update. So, or it would add the new one. And they're just two totally different things. A new add would add a new entry into your preset file, a new token, a new entry, and update this. As a matter of fact, let's just do. We'll just keep this like this. If I add red in here, oh, it's not going to do it because there's already red. Since our red is already in here, it's not going to do the same name. You have to give it a different name. So that's what happens. So if I put red modified, well, now I have a red modified, right? And it puts those settings in there. If I want to remove it, red modified removes it, and it selects the first preset by default. Um, I could have it select the last by default, but I decided to select the default, you know, just to refresh the list, and so makes it a lot easier and makes it a lot safer to do that. Now, when you're removing presets, the only one you can't remove is the default preset. You can't remove that at all. It's not going to let you. You can't rename it. You can't rename it. You can't update it. You can't do anything with this default. It must stay, and that's really to protect the tool from breaking down. Um, as you can see, I went ahead and put my own stuff in here, and I got these from a website that let me see, yeah, and yep, and I got these from a website called color-hex.com. I'll just throw it over here for kicks and giggles, and it has all sorts of stuff in there with names. Now, there's other color palettes on the internet that you can find, but most of them I found that when I did this, most of them I found didn't have names to them. And you can also create your own custom color palette and give it a name, whatever you want. Adobe has a like a tool for creating your own color palette, which is really good if you want a certain color scheme and give it a name. So now let's say now to go show you the real gem of this tool here. Let's say I have all these presets, and let's render it. Let's actually kick off a render here. We have a winter calm preset, um, and this is rendering pretty fast, and that rendering pretty fast on my system. So this is the winter calm preset. We'll save this. Moody Studio. And you can see how the color is just, I mean, it's fantastic. Um, and in case you're wondering, though, the shader ball is the test shader ball out of Houdini. I took it over to Substance Painter, put some textures on it that I'm going to use. And you'll notice that the scene says stylized chess. And that's because I'm going to use this scene to create a chessboard scene, and I'm going to use this three-point lighting setup. And that's the reason why I created this tool, is to have um, a real simple but powerful way to create a three-point light setup without having to individually modify each light. I have to go select a light, modify it, select another light, modify it, select another light, modify it. This tool allows me to do all that in one place. And as they say, necessity breeds innovation, and that's exactly why I created this. And it gives me options to do what I want to do with it. Let's actually render a warm. Um, these are all colors that I looked up, stuff that I looked up on the internet, like what's warm light colors look like? What's that color palette? So, um, and it's pretty good. It's pretty nifty. I like it. All right, so I got these. They're fine, but I'm looking for something, a little more green. Maybe I want a green color palette. Well, I'm going to go to my color palette, colorhex.com. And I'm gonna look up green. Let's look up green. Where are we at? Green. So I have a bunch of greens, right? I'm gonna show you what I see up here. We have a bunch of greens. Goth greens, a color. Wow, I didn't know that was like a palette. But I just want like plain green here. Green versus blue, no. Gardens. I just want shades of green, and I could easily, but this is the way that I like to work. Um, you know, kelp forest, awesome. Spring green. Let's see. Let's see what I like. Green Punk Lolita. That's awesome. Feeling froggy. I didn't know that was. Basic green. There we go. There we go. So I'm going to take this basic green. I'm going to download this color palette. I'm going to show you what I do with it. This is actually pretty neat. I'm going to go back here to this color palette, put this back in my browser. And now what I am actually going to do is downloads, basic green. I'm going to take this and put it over in my images folder so I have it. Ideas, light color palettes. And I'm going to actually just make this basic green color palette. All right. And this is a nifty thing right here. Let's see. I'm going to show you the tool here. I'm going to put basic green in here. Go ahead and add it. And now what I am going to do is in the color, and this is really neat. Go over here to like put your images, and you see I have all this over here. Well, I'm going to go ahead and add an image, and I'm going to go to my images folder, light color palette. I'm going to pick that basic green, accept, select it, and the first color I'm going to come up with is green. Aha. Now now I can go ahead and do this. Whoops, nope, red, green, and I can make that pure green. Now the next color I want, I'm going to do that lighter green as the fill color. And then that last one I'm going to keep as white, like I did with the red and blue. So I'm going to do, round these off, 0.4, 0.9, 0.2. Actually, hold on. 0.89, 0.17. All right. And let's see. Update. Let me see what I did with the blue. I should actually change that where it doesn't select the first one. It should select the token. Now I should have selected these. Let's see. 45, 45. Yeah. And you see what I'm doing here is 65, 45. Actually, let's see. 0.5, 3, 2, 0.5, 3, 2, 3.5, 2. All right, spread. And so I get to update that, and I hate that. I'm gonna have to change that. But, and you can see it's kind of in line with the red and blue. It's kind of in line with that. Select shades of red, and this is just basic green. And so if I go here and look at that, oh, well, why is it going slower? I have no clue why it's going slower. I bet you it's because I got something else running. I don't know. But you get the idea of the tool. Um, you get the idea of what it does. I might have to change that. I don't know why that's slow. Maybe it's the green color slow? Or the resources? Let me actually close my other session of Houdini here. That's probably what it is. Oh, it must be the way the lights are. Okay, so let's say I'm not happy with that, right? Let's go back to green. Let me see if I can find another, like a true green color palette here. Greens versus blue. Let's say I'm not really happy with that. No, I just want to update it. Day leaves, leafy greens, matte blue green, stage two. Man, there's some crazy names for this stuff. Green expert. I don't know what that is. No, not really much. All right, let's say that I'm not happy with that, right? So actually, let's see. We got red. Let's say I'm not happy with that. Let's say that I want this light to be green, right? And let's say this lighter and this lighter. It's weird why this would be that shades of green like that. Let's say I want that, right? I'm going to update that. And now I got my basic green in here. Let's render. And it's rendering a lot faster. It must have been something with the lights. And it's rendering a lot faster now. So not only did I have to close that Houdini session, but it's rendering on, you know. And so now I have green lights. And you see how easy it is to update this, right? And so that's the power of this tool. And it gets all this stuff here. Let me actually see. 0.532, 0.532, 3.52. Yeah, I got all that right. 75.5. Say I'm not happy with the spread here. Let's say I want the spread to match. Well, that's green. What do I have? Oh, that's winter calm. Let's see. Let's say I want this 1.85. Let's say I want that. And we just update it, come back to it. And you can see the spread just up, it changes the lights. That's the power with this tool. I mean, it's just so great. All right. So all I did was I gave it a name, you know, set it up, put my color intensity and the trans. Now, here's the thing. The intensity, everything from the intensity to the volume is saved in a JSON file. The transforms are not. And the reason is because, you know, well, I mean, I may put transforms in there, but later, but there are so many custom setups that, so many configurations you can put your lights to get different things. I thought it best to um, not to put them in there. That way your preset is not really stuck where the lights are, if that makes sense. Um, they just have independent like control. All right, so and here's the thing with the transforms. Now, there's a master transform, which will transform all the lights in relation to the master transform null that's in this scene. It's right in the center. So if I want to transform up, it takes all the lights up, and you see all the lights are they're not changing position, they're just moving straight up, right? And they're just moving in relation to where that is. Rotate, they're just that's all they do. And you got to kind of be careful with that, but because you can get some really weird results with this. Um, you can get some really weird results with that. And the only light that's not pointing at anything is this background light here. Now there's the master transform, and here's the target transform. The target is what all the lights except for the background light is looking at. And so when you move the target, you can see all the lights move. You can see all the lights look at with it. And that's why I did not include um, rotations for the key fill and backlight because those rotations are controlled by the target. So wherever that target goes, that's where the lights are looking at. And that's set up in the lights themselves inside of the HDA. Um, since what I'm going to be doing are still scenes, I just thought it best to have a target. That way, I um, that way there's a subject in the scene. So this is all the lights are going to be pointing to the subject, and I don't have to do I don't have to look through light, blah 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 blah, and do all that crap. I don't have to do that. I can just move the target transform wherever I want, and that's the only thing I have to do now is figure out how to get the transform gizmo in there. So I got to find a way. Now you can manually move these lights, right? You can move the transforms of these lights, and no matter where you move them, they're always going to point at wherever that target is, right? Now, the first thing that happens when you create the tool, you see this button that says set start position. That button will set a start position for all the lights in the scene. Let's say I just have that, boom, set start position, it moves them into place. Um, and so that gives you a basic starting point, and that happens when you hit that button or when you create the tool. So there's that. I like that actually. And the rotations is only for that background light, right? It's only for that background light. And you can rotate it any which way, you want, down if you wanted to point more down. But like I said, that background light is to give it more depth, more color, more variation to your scene. If you have like a background light, just think of, photography and what they do. They'll have a 3-point light set up and a background light. Okay. And now we come to the moment in the video where I'm going to go through the code. So hopefully that explains to, oh, one more thing. I created a help for this tool. And there's documentation on how to create a help file for your HDA if you want one. So um, later on when I'll create a separate scene. I'll create a separate scene with this tool in it, and I'll provide the HDA as well. So that way you can use it. If you have Redshift, this will work. This will work for you. Otherwise, it'll probably break because it can't find if you don't have Redshift. Now you can go in here and replace the lights and link them up and but it's if you have Redshift, then that would be better. All right. And I'll show you what's inside here. And here's all the stuff that's inside here. There's this, the target, right? The master transform and all of the lights that are in the scene, right? And you notice that I have that look at in here. I'll probably end up locking these lock parameters so they can't be um, edited, but yeah. All right, and now for what we all came here to see, the code. All right, so I have an onCreated script and I have the Python module, right? And then over here in the parameters, the menu also has a script, okay? Now, in order for this to work, there has to be a file. It will open a file, load the data, and then it'll put all of these into this list and return the menu items and fill up that where is it? And it will fill up this Dropbox here. And they're always, when you're doing a menu item, when you're scripting a menu item, it always has to be an even number. It can't be odd. And so it gets the token and label, fills the token first, and then the label. The token, is that unique identifier for the label. All right. So let's go back over here. Now on created, right? Yeah, this one I created. The first thing it does, I'm importing my JSON OS and sys libraries, right? And I don't remember if I'm using anything from the sys library. I think I probably am somewhere. I just have to look. Um, or maybe not. Hmm. Definitely, I'm definitely using the um, JSON and OS. So you only load the libraries that you need, and I could probably take this out. Let me actually just make sure here. Yeah. Um, Save node type. Anyway, unload those libraries that I don't need. And you'll notice that I'm doing it, at the very top. So I'm getting the parent node, which is itself. I'm loading in the preset file parameter right here, if there is one, and I evaluate it as a string. And there's some things like if you go to now I give a lot of credit to the guy that created um, his original 3-point lighting, because that's where I got all my ideas from. And the other place that I got learned a lot of scripting from was Indie Pixel. He did a really good job. But there were some things in his video that he didn't do that I actually did, and I'll show you what they are. Um, so I'm getting this parameter, and I am evaluating it as a string and putting it into path preset. And I'm also, with this OS library, I'm doing I'm getting the directory where this file lives. And so I'm checking to see if this path to preset exists. If it does not exist, which on first creation it won't, yeah, on any first creation of this instance, any new instance of this tool that you have, and it's not going to save whatever your last file is. So every time this is created, it, you know, it has its default path. This default path is stored right here. Nope, right here. And I'm using the Houdini user preference uh, directory environment variable, right? I'm using that. And you can find all this stuff actually in the About Houdini if you show details and go all the way, down. You're going to find all those environment variables there, right? And you can use those to your advantage. So that's what I did there. I took that Houdini user directory, and I probably could do desktop or other stuff, but I decided to do the path to the custom Houdini, that Houdini folder in the um, that's in your documents. So it gets this, right? Pass it in and makes the base directory out of it where that file should live. So if it doesn't find the file, it's going to ask you, do you want to create uh, new instance of latest tools created? Would you like to create a new preset file? Yes or no? The default is going to be no, but you can select yes. And then the title is save preset file. Now this is where the result is. If you select yes, which is no, yes, then it's going to look for that start directory. If the start direct if that start directory start if that start directory does not exist, then it's going to default this into this variable. Or if it does exist, then it'll just plain put it in there. And that's what's going to be used in the next confirmation. That's what's going to be used in this next um, file select box here, or the next window. And so I have this try and exception to catch any errors that come through here. And the only one that really comes up is you hit the cancel button when you're overwriting a file. That's it. That's all that's there to catch. Um, so it takes Houdini.select file, creates the select file window, title save file, the start directory, and then any file type, which is going to be JSON. But the pattern is set. You can change this pattern in there and it'll update it like you can in Houdini. But the pattern is set to JSON, and the method is only going to be write, right? And then the default value is going to be whatever that name is. But you can name the file whatever you want. It's not going to stop you from doing that. And I have done that. And now, if the path in whatever you select in this window, it's going to see if that exists. Now, this is a better method to use than Houdini file because the Houdini dot find file produces an exception, like it produces um, an exception error that pops up a separate window, and it's kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying because it doesn't allow, it pops up an exception and it doesn't allow to go through the rest of the code if you cancel out of that. And so what's supposed to happen is that when you hit cancel, if you try to overwrite it, if you decide not to overwrite a file, then um, you hit cancel, and it raises this node error right here. Because the file is already found in that directory, I decided to raise that node error, and when it does, the overwrites cancel. Please select an existing file. An existing file that was found but not overwritten will be used, and so that's what it'll do. It'll use whatever file you did not overwrite until you really point to an existing file, and for whatever reason it fails. You can still, after it fails and pops up the exceptions and stuff like that, you can still select a file and it will work just fine. So it's not, so it doesn't break the tool if something happens. It doesn't break it at all. So let's say you decided to cancel, right? If this Blake confirmation, if this is true, if you hit yes, then it will overwrite whatever file was there, and it will point this blank in here. Um, right? And when it does that, it comes out of this and it will write a default. It will write the default settings to that file, and this is where this write JSON file is at. So, so once again, if you decide not to overwrite, or if you hit no, it will print a new preset file will be created, and it will just move on through the code. And this write JSON file. Now, the reason why I have this here is because this write JSON file is actually over in the Python module. So in order to call um, in order to call a routine in another script, you have to you have the parent Houdini module and then the name of the routine, and you pass in whatever data you set up. So the data would be this, which is all this, and then preset file is this. Now I'm not going to go into, I don't completely understand it yet, but I'm not going to go into how to create your JSON files like that. You can look that up um, on your own, but you can see how it's set up. I create the dictionary, the key for the dictionary, create the dictionary, make the key, and then append that with the values that I want. I'll show you this write JSON file in a little bit. So now, if you decide to hit no, you want to link to a file, then it's going to come down here and display another box, select file. and you just link to the file. And now if something happens with that, you're going to get that error. Um, and then you just have to go select it. So it's going to probably break that. And then once you do all that, once it satisfies the condition, it's going to set that preset file parameter with the file path. And then it's going to um, call that start position that I was talking about. And it's going to set the start position of all the lights that are in the scene. Okay. So that's on created. And this whole thing gets ran when the node is created, when that first instance is created, every time. So now on to the Python module. And this is the fun one. So we're going to start, I'm going to start with the read and write JSON routines, the definitions. And you can look all this up on the internet, but these are the routines here. Write JSON, so you use JSON.dump, pass in its data, pass in where that file is, right? Full path. So it's going to open that file as an out file, right? Or as whatever variable you set there. I decided, most people would just put F. I put out file. I just gave it a name because it makes more sense to me. So in most situations, I don't like single letters for variables. Only when I'm doing like for loops, I would use a single letter like I for um, int. Um, oh, what the hell? I forgot the name of it. Um, Integer, you know, because count is an integer. But I just use out file. And so I would dump the data into that file, and I gave it an indent, and that formats it really nice. And the read JSON file, all this does with the same with open, you give it a path, you give it R for read, W for write, R for read, put it into a variable, and I just return, and I use this JSON.load to return it, to return that data into a variable that I have in other routines. And I'll show you that in a moment. All right, so we're going to start from the top down. Use preset. So typical stuff, get the parameters, right? And now I'm using, and you can see where I call this read JSON file. So I call that, right? And I'm going into a for loop for every token that's in there, for every block. This presets will put all the blocks in there that are separated by comma. The blocks are in, let me actually open this file, I'll show you. And the blocks are these things right here. They're separated by commas. So each one of these blocks is put into this presets variable. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking this presets variable, I'm calling the value, the key value here, right? Which is label. If the label matches this preset name, pull all of these settings right here. Key light preset, backlight, background light, pull all of these presets and split the string based on the pipe delimiter. And the reason why I'm doing this is because of the way that it gets the values get formatted in a list. If I just have commas, then all the parameters that like color and size, which are called tuples, those parameters will actually get separated out, and instead of having, just one, to call the entire thing, I would have to have one. I would have to have two extra ones to be able to pull those and put them in, and put them together. Um, so, and let me actually see if I can show you what I mean here. Oops, no, not that. Yeah, here we go. So let's say I have, um, let's say I have, um, this, right? Let's say I have that. Um, and if I do that string split, let's see, the list equals test list dot split print for item in the list print item, right? Let's see if that works. Get my shell up here. I'm going to move this off screen temporarily so you can see. All right. So if I have that, tuple has no attribute split. Actually, I think I need to do this. Let me see. So, or is it, hold on. Not as smart as what I think I am. Set has no op. Okay, I obviously don't know what I'm doing, apparently. Let's see, hold on. Hmm. Set object has no. There we go. All right, there we go. Had to do it as a string. Okay, so I had to do it as a string. Let me actually do this. This is good that you get to see all my screw ups here. All right. Because this only works on as strings. All right. And so you can see right here, it's split by the commas, right? But if I were to pipe delimit these, right? Now watch what happens. And then now watch what happens. Now you got the one, and you got the tuple, and then you got the other one. So that's why I pipe delimit it. And you'll see here in a second why. All right. So we take all these. These are all strings. They're put into variables. And we're passing these variables into these routines. We pass in the node, and then all these strings are accessed with item numbers, right? And they're passed in. Now, some of these are tuples. So when I come down here, say to set key light, right? Node, intensity, color, temperature, size, spread, volume, sample volume. These are all the stuff that I'm passing in, and I have data for each one. The node and the 7 pieces of information that I need. And so the way that you set these, if you want to set stuff like color, anything that has like XYZ or RGB, 3 float, which are these parameters right here, color, and size, right? 3 float, which is these right here, which is these parameters. Those are called tuples because they're multiple values for that parameter. Now you can set each one of those individually, XYZ, RGB, or you can do yourself a favor and get the node parm tuple with the main name. So in this case, key color is right here, right? Key color. But when you look at the actual node, you can see it says key color RGB, right? So instead of doing 3 at once, I just called the parameter tuple. Now I can do parm key color RGB, if I wanted to, but this makes it a lot easier. So you call it the parm tuple, right? The name of the node, or I'm sorry, the name of the parameter, and then you set, but you have to evaluate this. You have to use the eval command and put your items in here. Okay. And so that's how you set a tuple parameter. And so I do that throughout all of this. Strings like this one up here, like the file name, eval is string, same thing. Same, you just use parm dot whatever the variable is, but then you use eval as string, so you evaluate it as a string. All right. Light start position. I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but I said I'd go over. We'll start from we'll go back to the top. All right. And so that's use preset. Add new light item, right? So I'm grabbing all of these parameters, and you see I'm calling that parm tuple once again, evaluating that parameter and putting it in the fill color, right? Evaluating temp, size, parm tuple again. So I'm grabbing all these parameters, putting them in here, and I'm setting a new variable, key settings, and I'm doing them all as strings. I should have picked up on that. Yeah. So I'm doing them all as strings because I have to put them in the file. Otherwise, it's not going to evaluate correctly. And I'm using that pipe to separate them, right? Open with Notepad. And you can see what that string is, and they're in quotations because it's a string value. It's a string, so that's why I did that. Put them all in the variable. Reading the preset file that's already there, right? As long as the preset name is not blank, with this add new preset, if the preset name is blank, then it's not going to do anything. It's just going to come back and display a message. Please enter a name for the new preset and try again. Enter name. All right. So let's say there is a preset name. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the amount of presets that are in here, I'm taking away one, right? Um, so if there's one preset, this starts at 0, it'll go for presets in the tool preset. If the name is found, it's just going to break out of that for loop and just end. It's going to break out of that loop. Otherwise, if it reaches the end of finding those presets, then it's going to give it a new token, whatever that max preset that new token is. Um, and it's going to append it. It's going to put in that new token, whatever the length of this is. So if there's one, the new token is one, and that's going to be the next number. It's always going to start at 0, right? It's going to start at 0. So if there's one preset, the next number is going to be 1. If there's two presets, the next number is going to be 2, 3, and so forth. Um, so let's see if we can just step through this. I'll just kind of step through that for loop real quick. Number of presets. All right, so let's say just the default is in here. For presets, since it hasn't reached the max preset yet, since there's one preset, technically, it hasn't found anything yet. Since I is still 0, and that's why I have that -1 in there. Because if I don't do that -1, then it's going to put 2 presets in there instead of 1. Why do these all say 1? Hmm. Oh, no. Interesting. I'm going to have to look at that. Weird. I just noticed now. Notice that. I wonder if it's because... See, it did 11 here, but that's because there's 11 presets. Okay, so it is working right. That's weird. So it's going to put the new token in there, whatever the length of that preset, whatever the length is. So if there's 2, it's going to put 2, 3, and so forth. And it's going to put all those settings in there. It's going to write the JSON file. It's going to remove the name from, it's going to clear that text box. It's going to um, take the new token, select it, and then add 1, and it, and that's once 1 is reached. All right. All right. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I think I know why it did that. Maybe. I think it's in the update preset. I'll have to look. All right. Remove preset just does the opposite. If it equals the name, then if it's not the preset, if it's not the default preset, then go ahead and remove it. Oh, for renumber preset, and it should be renumbering the presets. Maybe that's what it is. I'll have to test it out. It was working. I don't know why. Anyway, select the first preset and be done. All right. Update preset. Pretty much the same thing. Get all the parameters, put them into a variable, and then find the name of the preset and update it. And just update it. Okay. That's simple. Write the JSON file. save new file, which just saves a new file. And say it just does a new file and just saves it. Default settings. Wherever it's at. I should probably use this routine over in the onCreated, but that's okay. Open file location just opens the file. And this is where I'm only using this in one block. It's not necessary to put it above, so that's why I have this here. You just use a suppress subprocess. The OS is used in multiple blocks, so that's why I have that out there. It's used globally as opposed to locally. When you have this in a block, it's local. If you have it outside the block, it's global. So just remember that when you're creating your own. And so all I'm doing is I'm getting the type of OS, and it'll open the directory based on the type of OS you have, whether it is Explorer or otherwise. If it's an OS that's not supported, then it's going to raise OS error. And these you already seen. Open file, on file chooser changed. All right. So whenever oh, that's why I have that like that. Okay. So whenever the name, so whenever this field is changed, new preset file, then it's going to go back and go and select the default menu item. All right, set late start position, you're seeing, read and write. And all of this I'm calling over here. Let's go over them, go over these. So I'm calling on file chooser, chooser changed. Save, I'm calling to save new, open, file location. I'm doing callback scripts for a lot of these. Use preset, right? This is what will update all these parameters, is that function. And then with this file, this populates everything. And that's really it. And you can see all this stuff here where I'm linking the channels to inside the, HDA. They're all linked. And I have default values for everything. So, and that's really it. And as for the help file, you'll find all this, on the in the Houdini documentation. I created a help file. I'm not going to go over that. There is a video from IndiePixel that goes over that, so I give a lot of credit to that guy for getting me started on that. But this is how I created the help file. And when you go to the help file, that's what it looks like. So that's it. And hope you got something out of this. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.